Mike Lutzenkirchen is back here with us on the Rick and Bubba Show. Mike, good to have you back.
Great to be here, guys.
So the Lutzie 43 Foundation, obviously, when you came on the show, I guess it's been, a couple years ago, that you were just starting out, obviously, with the unfortunate death of your son. You like any of us who've been through that, you know, one of the things that can help with the healing is let's have this make a difference in the lives of other people, and have our son's name associated with making a difference. And you know, this is I know this month we're trying to bring awareness, you know, about distracted driving, and we said on there all the time, Mike, and obviously by what you're doing here, and we'll get into the Foundation's 43 Key Seconds initiative and tell everybody what it's about and how they can be part of it. Distracted driving right now is at an all-time high. I mean, it's really scary when you're out on the roads, when you look around at how many drivers are not paying attention. They're just not paying attention. You know, this goes beyond, you know, being under the influence of something, the phones and the Bluetooths and the maps and all the things that are going on. I don't know that there's ever been a time when you've been on the road and you've been in the middle of so many drivers and aren't paying attention.
Yeah, you know, we're all about the same age. So when we grew up, I grew up in the Chicago area. You had the temptations of underage drinking.
Right.
Marijuana was prevalent, I guess. Wearing seatbelts wasn't even thought of.
No.
And speeding was certainly there. But, you know, I've got a mentor in my life who's about 20 years older than I, and I share that with kids every time I talk, that you should have mentors, and if you don't know what they are, let me describe to you what a mentor is. And Mike said, you know, you need to share your email address when you speak, because it's so different for kids these days. And if you knew Mike, Mike is now 78, and he's as black and white as it comes. Like I tell kids all the time, you know, there's a line. In fact, I spoke yesterday at Berry High School in Berry, Alabama, stood at half court in an assembly and said, you know, on this side of the line is you smoke dope, on the other side you don't. I mean, that's just plain and simple. You're not straddling the line. But Mike's point was technology's changed the game. You know, we all have cell phones. When you ask kids in a high school assembly how many have a phone or don't have a phone to raise their hand, I think yesterday out of 250 kids, 5 hands went up. So we're so wired and connected. You know, I came over yesterday, and I do this all the time when I come into Alabama from Atlanta, crossing 20. I slow down a little bit, quite frankly, to let other cars get near me and pass me. And yesterday, again, it held true. 2 people snatched their phones that were mounted on a dashboard because it's a state law now in Georgia, and they pulled them off, and they're now holding them. So I don't think distracted driving was a term, being 55, 56 years old, that was used when we were driving.
Yeah. No. So tell us a little bit about this initiative, and we'll put all the website and everything about the foundation in our show notes today. Tell us what we need to get out today that you want people to know.
Well, you hit it on it earlier. The National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, the National Safety Council, 2, a government entity and then a nonprofit entity, have promoted April going forward and a few past years also as Distracted Driving Awareness Month. We've got a great PR firm here in Birmingham, Night Edie Sports Group. We've just invested in a pretty big PR push in Birmingham, Mobile, Atlanta, and Greenville, South Carolina for this initiative, with billboards and radio and TV spots and so forth and paid media, social media. But the net of it is, about 9 months ago, somebody challenged me with the foundation, said, you're doing some wonderful things, but are you doing enough? Are you worried about Philip's relevancy now that's been 4+ years since he's passed away? And those were great questions that I was already thinking about in my family and our board of directors. And we're really proud of what we've accomplished in the first 4+ years. Estimated that we've spoken to about 190,000 people with our message. Have a curriculum, have a scholarship program, do a elementary school age PE field days for special needs kids. But the reality of it is we started to look at some things and came up with the term crisis and epidemic that the government puts around distracted and impaired driving. And I'm a visual learner, or visual triggers is what set me off. And we thought, wow, there's no nationally recognized symbol for distracted and impaired driving, or more importantly, not to be that type of driver. And everything we do is around Phillips number 43 at Ward, Auburn. And I've already been speaking at a summit called Your Keys to Drive, Teen Driving Summits here, funded by State Farm and Children's of Alabama here in Alabama, and we're really proud of it. But we've picked up there's no symbol. So we created this decorative key that I've showed you there. It says 43 key seconds on one side. You may have a custom logo on the back, but the standard key on the other side has 43 in the word TO, so 43 to distracted free. And it's meant as a visible symbol, and it's attached to a card you can see. We call it a countdown card, and basically we're asking people to take 43 seconds, whether you're a brand new driver, somebody 80 years old, everybody in between, to take 43 seconds to go through a countdown that says, first and foremost, do you have a clear head? Are you drug impaired, alcohol impaired, drug impaired? Are you fatigued, especially our teens and high school or college kids? Are you of the right
radio host?
Yeah, right. There you go. Right. Are you of the right mental frame to be driving? Then you go, do you have clear hands? Have you already done your texting, your emailing, set your GPS on your dashboard or on your phone? Have you set your radio? Have you put your seatbelt on and made sure all your passengers have? And then you go, do you have clear eyes? Especially the younger kids. Are you focused on the road? You know, when I was in driver's ed, which most driver's eds, it was a semester of in classroom. Yeah. And then a semester behind the wheel, and now because of expenses, it's offered, but most kids don't take it through schools. The old 10 and 2 with your hands on the steering wheel. Yep. And then a fourth one that we think everybody should know about is click it. You know, click it or ticket. We think if people will go through those 4 steps in 43-some seconds before you start your car, we've got a wonderful opportunity here in the Southeast and ultimately across the country to change the narrative on the number of crashes and, most importantly, fatalities that are taking place. The reality of it is when we go to bed tonight, all of us in this room, 9 people will have died today just from distracted driving.
Yeah, looking at these numbers, and I've heard this mentioned before, but you really lay it out in ways that you can really understand that it doesn't take long for you to take your eyes off the road for any reason that you could find yourself in a bind. If you're only going 55 miles per hour and you look down to read a text, it was like you drove the length of a football field blindfolded.
I'll tell you what, does that have an impact when you're in an all-school assembly and you tell kids, imagine this, you put your vehicle on the goal line at one end of the end zone. It's your biggest rivalry, so both sides of the stands are filled. You floor your vehicle to 55. By the time it comes to 55, you've crossed the other goal line. It's 4.5 seconds is the average time that's been estimated, and you didn't see any fan on either side of the field because you weren't even looking at them. And that's now envision taking that to the interstate or a road, and that's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it a lot, the deaths on our highways every year, and the number has come down a little bit, but it was averaging around 50,000 just a few years ago, which was more than we lost in the entire Vietnam War. And it just doesn't get the same priority, it doesn't seem like a lot of times. And you know, those are real people, as you know.
Yeah, you know, I've had states reach out to me to say, hey, would you be willing to help us to what you accomplished? And not me, but what did the state of Georgia accomplish? Back on July 1st of last year, we were only the 16th state in this country to enact a hands-free law. And it was pretty interesting when it first came out. Somebody asked me yesterday, Mike, have you become a better non-distracted driver? And I can say I think I have. I used to have my phone in my cup holder of my van. I'd be honest, I'd pick it up. I hear a ping, somebody texting me, somebody emailing.
Yeah, you always glance down.
My general rule of thumb is if I'm on the interstate, if nobody was next to me or nobody was a mile in front or a mile behind, it was safe for me to look at it. And that's with 30-plus years driving experience. And when you tell kids that, they're just amazed. But I now have mine on my dashboard. And I knew it was working. I believe in the thing my college basketball coach told us to say, if you try something deliberately for 21 days, it becomes a good or bad habit. After about 3 weeks, I'd get back from a trip and be in my home office for 2 hours and wonder why I hadn't gotten any phone calls, and I realized I left my phone on the dashboard where it's mounted. So I believe I'm a better non-distracted driver. I don't believe I've been an impaired driver, but it's changing. And in Georgia, if you saw the statistics that they're starting to release after the first 9 months of this, accidents are down about 12 to 14%, and most importantly, fatalities are down almost 10%. And I'm not the great math wizard here, but I tell kids all the time, think about that. Out of every 100 kids, because of that law, 10 kids people are still walking the face of this earth because we enacted a hands-free law.
Well, if you want to get all the information about it, we've put it in show notes. It's Lutzie43.org, and you can go there and you can find out everything about the new 43 Key Seconds initiative. You can find out everything about the foundation. You can find out what you can do to come alongside this, and certainly you can take this information and sit down with your family and just implement it.
Well, here's what's really cool about it, Rick. You know, I reached out to Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Gus Malzahn, Kirby Smart, all these coaches who either recruited Phillip, coached against him, or coached him, and not one of them hesitated. I said, I need you guys to do a PSA. So, you know, with Nick's case, they said, Mike, we want to do it after the season. And this was a conversation that took place in late July. And I said, well, Nick, unfortunately, as an Auburn fan, you play into January. I can't wait till January. And Nick's done a lot of great stuff for our foundation. I root for Alabama every game but one every year.
Right.
And Nick actually did a press conference. During a press conference, his weekly press conference, which he really enjoys, he referenced the 43 key seconds. Right. Dabo Swinney did it on his radio show, and I knew these guys might not do it if the key looked like it was an Auburn-colored key.
Right.
So we have a key. If people want to go out to the internet, not the internet, but to Amazon, and they plug in their Lutzie 43 keys, you will see all the keys are white, a base white key, but the print on them is in a school colors. So you'd find an Alabama school colored key or a Clemson key or a Troy key.
Yeah.
What we're encouraging people to do is go buy one. They're $5 to buy the key, $10 for the key and lanyard. Learn to count down, memorize it, leave the card in your car, but then put that lanyard and key either around your rearview mirror or use it as your keychain as a daily visible reminder that says, you know what, as soon as you go to snag that phone or not wear that seatbelt, maybe that's going to trigger you to put the seatbelt on. Especially young kids to have the courage to tell their passengers to put their seatbelt on. We just think this has a wonderful opportunity if we do this right to go nationwide. And what I'm really excited about, starting today and tomorrow today in Georgia and Alabama, the state troopers in both states have co-branded keys with their respective logo on it, and they're going to hand them out during pullovers.
How about that?
If you get pulled over for hands-free.
I think I'd rather go to Amazon and get mine.
Yeah, I had to.
But that's one way. I mean, that's another way it can happen.
As nice as those officers are.
You don't want to meet them, but we're hoping that they're going to help us. They're
Amen.
The distribution vehicle.
Amen. There's all the information you could possibly need, and go out there, and now it's time to go to action. Lutzie43.org if you want to go back and revisit everything that we've talked about. Go out and get those keys and put them up, and let's make a difference.
Rick and Bubba.